Hello, everybody, and happy 4th of July weekend. This is going to be the last video for our class. Well, first of all, I guess I'm going to change this into student view so you guys can follow along with me. I've had a few questions about the final portfolio, so I wanted to get this out to you guys right away as soon as as soon as possible. I know with the holiday weekend, it's kind of hard. I know everyone has plans, but hopefully you guys will be able to watch this within the next couple of days, so you know what's going on with this final portfolio and reflective introduction that's going to be due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. on Turnitin.com. As far as this final portfolio is concerned, we are only in this last week, week 8, we're only reading a student example of that final portfolio, and we're actually doing the final portfolio. So what I want to show you first of all is the final portfolio assignment. You're only creating one thing that's kind of brand new, and that is a reflective introduction. That reflective introduction in your final portfolio is worth 100 points. It's really important that you guys take some time for this reflective introduction. The RBA final portfolio draft with highlighted changes, which is going to be your third draft. You've all handed in your first and your second, or most of you have handed in your first or your second. The third draft is going to be worth 50 points. Also, including your final draft or the second draft, the one you just handed in to me this past week, is 25 points, and the first draft is worth 25 points. When you are putting these two items into your document, your final portfolio document, all you have to do is copy and paste them in. I don't expect you to actually do anything to them besides revising the second draft into a third draft. Also, you're going to include your process analysis final portfolio draft with highlighted changes. This will be your third draft. That's worth 50 points. And then once again, you're going to be copying and pasting what you turned in for me, the final draft and the first draft, for 25 points each. If you don't turn in some of these items, what you're going to find is your grade will go down substantially, and you need to be aware that by not putting those into that draft, this does actually really affect your grade. Say if you miss 100 points and you don't get all of the 50 points on your third drafts and all of the points on your reflective introduction, that could really hurt you. So just be very careful that you are including all 7 items. But here we're going to click on this final portfolio assignment, and in that final portfolio assignment, I'm going to go into my documents where I just downloaded this. It is worth 300 points total, and I do not accept any late assignments whatsoever unless you've made every effort to contact me ahead of time and there is some type of extraordinary circumstance happening. So your final portfolio should include this semester's very best writing, evidence of this semester's progress of writing, and your reflections on this semester's writing. So that final portfolio is going to include 2 major sections, the reflective introduction and your showcase. So what you're going to need to do is submit your final portfolio to Turnitin.com in one Word document. So we have a checklist for you here. As I've already mentioned, this is worth 100 points. You can just check off these items once you get those into your final portfolio, but to first of all talk about the reflective introduction a little bit, it's going to be an important piece of your document because it's going to basically make a case or make an argument to me personally, so this can be a little bit more formal than your final drafts. It's more informal than, say, your RBA drafts. It's a little bit more informal than your process analysis because you can talk directly to me. Think of it more as a letter to me. As with any piece of writing, you should start early, plan well, draft, revise, edit carefully. Give this piece as much attention as you give your revision to your major essays because it is worth 100 points. This introduction should provide some specific references to your revised essays. That means you're going to be quoting yourself. You are going to be talking about how it was that you used research, how you integrated that research into your argument, and we're going to be talking about student learning outcome, find and use information that's on the syllabus as one of our general education learning outcomes. finding and using information is simply this. It's simply finding proper research. So maybe it's scholarly research, maybe it's research from experts in the field, and being able to use that effectively in your paper to create an argument or to create some type of cohesive piece that actually is not only readable but makes sense. So therefore, you should be quoting, summarizing, or paraphrasing from your major writing assignments to justify your responses. Quote yourself, quote your thesis, quote different places where you've integrated your sources. Remember, this introduction is about your work rather than your feelings about the course or the instructor. I just want to know how far it is that you feel like you've come in your writing. I've seen substantial improvements from many of you, if not all of you, from the beginning of this summer semester. So I'm really excited to kind of hear what you have to say about your own writing, and I want you to reflect honestly about that writing process. Maybe you feel like you didn't come as far as you would have liked to, and that's okay too. Everyone's a little bit different, and especially in an online platform, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get the results that we want. So be aware of that. In the end, you do want to make a case that you have met the goals of the papers and possess the necessary skills to move on. So with the in addition to that reflective introduction, you're going to include your showcase. That's the second part of this assignment. And the showcase items include 6 different drafts. You're going to put them in this order. So we're starting with the newest assignment and working our way down. You need to revise your RBA final draft, this second draft, and create a third draft. In that third draft, every change you make from this second draft to this third draft, you want to highlight or use track changes. Now, if you have a word processor, you can do one of two things. As I mentioned, you can highlight in that highlight button, say I want to highlight this because this has changed from my final draft. You're just going to click highlight, and it's going to highlight whatever you've maybe added or changed. If you are taking something out of your paper completely, you can use the strike through, and that just crosses off what you have. And if you don't even want to mess with some of that stuff, I know sometimes that can be a lot of clicking. What you can always do is you can click on your, once you copy and paste everything into your document, you can go to review, you can turn your track changes on and make sure that we have all comments, insertions, deletions, formatting, and I believe the markup area highlight are the only things that you need to do. And then if you make a change, once this track changes is on, it will turn up in a different color. It'll show this little line here. If you make a substantial change where maybe you're deleting a chunk, it's going to show up over here as well. So just be aware that that is easier because then you're not necessarily having to do a lot of highlighting or copy or, clicking. But either way, it's up to you. Either way you do it, as long as I can see the changes you've made. Now, if you make change or if you highlight something that you haven't actually changed, you will be docked. I do go through and look at your second draft compared to your third draft and what those highlights look like. So make sure you are substantially revising. There should be at least 5 to 7 changes per page in your RBA from your final draft to the final portfolio draft, as well as this process analysis paper. Many of you have come really far in this class, and so I want to see what you've learned and how your revision and editing has actually changed from even the first draft to the final draft. Because when we first started all of this, many of you may not have taken an English class like this before. So really consider, at least making 5 to 7 changes per page per page for both assignments here, and those are those 6. Now remember, you're just copying and pasting the first draft and final draft in, and you're copying and pasting the first and final draft in of your process analysis as well. If you have not saved copies of your first draft, say for example, maybe you just continually saved and changed the draft as you went, that's okay. I'm going to show you on Turnitin. If we actually log into Turnitin, I'm going to just show you where it is that you can download those original copies. So let's pretend that we have a first draft here. I'm just going to use Michael's example. If we have this first draft, and obviously your screens look a little bit different than mine, but there's a couple of ways that you can download it. If we click on the actual into the feedback studio, you can click on this little setting button right here. You can click on the down arrow and download that originally submitted file, so you don't have to search through your computer for it if you've already maybe been making changes as you go. So be aware of that. So a couple of quick notes for the final portfolio drafts. You do need to highlight all changes and revisions you've made, as I've mentioned, from the second draft only. You don't need to highlight anything on these two, on the first or the second draft, just on the third draft. You do need to have the required format throughout, so it needs to be an MLA 8th edition for all drafts. It needs to be clean, polished, edited grammar and language usage, and works cited pages must be included for all essays. Now, as far as your reflective introduction is concerned, you do need to submit that with your final portfolio. It'll be the first thing that I see. And since we've been working on this for most of the summer here, you will have completed a significant amount of invention, drafting, and revision. So I need to see how your essay is addressing these student learning outcomes, finding and using information, and also kind of talking about some of these parts of the process: invention, drafting, and revision. There is a little bit more information on this in paragraph 4 of the student example for the student learning outcome stuff, so please see that for that specific information. We'll look down there in just a second. And please discuss how using the databases and the ability to determine appropriate research actually helped your papers. The purpose of this introduction is to help you reflect on your writing and assess your progress throughout the semester. So this reflective introduction needs to be 500 words, which is really just 2 sketches, basically. Not too long. It might end up being longer. Sometimes people find that they get a little long-winded in the reflective introduction, and that's totally fine. I'm not going to dock you if you go over the 500 words. You might find that you need more than 500 words to actually complete this assignment, and that's totally fine. Your reflective introduction must do the following things. You need to demonstrate logical writing, persuasive writing, your ability to determine what research is needed, and effective incorporation of outside information to achieve a specific purpose. You're not actually going to write about these things. These things should just appear in your writing when you're writing about the actual prompt that I will show you here in just a second. You also need to ensure that your reflective introduction is a self-contained, cohesive document. Be very specific in this document. Make sure that you're not just answering the questions that I give you, but you're kind of prompting me, the reader, with what it is that I need to know, so I'm not just guessing. The reflective introductions might, you can use a variety of formats. A memo or a letter is fine, and I have included an example of some of the questions you might consider answering in that reflective introduction, and what I have below is actually in memo format. So as I've mentioned, in order to address each of these bullet points above, these specific ones, up here in this little section, follow the prompt below. So on page 3 here of this student or of this assignment example, this is in memo format. You're going to have all of this single spaced. You'll have my name, your name, the date, and the final portfolio reflective introduction. And then in the first paragraph, you're going to provide a brief introductory paragraph introducing your portfolio and the included materials. Paragraph 2 should answer these questions. Talk about oh, and I've messed this up here. We didn't do a compare and contrast essay, so don't worry about that, but you're going to be talking about your process analysis essay and your RBA essay. And then additionally, we're going to, in paragraph 3, talk about the evolution of topics in early drafts and invention strategies, what worked for you, the annotated bibliographies, the outlines, the topic proposals. Did one not work as well? Paragraph 4 is going to discuss specific revisions made between the first drafts and the final drafts. Once again, I have this little typo here. We're just working with the process analysis, so I apologize for that. And then paragraph 5 is going to discuss that general education education student learning outcome that I had talked about, and that's finding and using information. I've given you a little definition of what that looks like. Paragraph 6 will talk about specific goals for further revision if you are going to take this one step further. So if you have any questions about that, please consult the example that I've given you to read, as that has a lot of really good information. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.